Hello, welcome to the SC Playbook podcast. I'm your host, Tim Williams. The podcast today brought to you by, as always, Pat and George from Mortgage Choice SCW. Very, very exciting for a stack of reasons today ahead of NRL Supercoach Round 12, a week away from the dreaded NRL Supercoach bye period. A reason we're not overly excited for, but, you know, he's here anyway. It's the tried, the tested, the Supercoach Spy. Spy, how are you, mate?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Good, mate. Has form's holding up all right? You're on the rise.
Still on the up, mate. I think based on recent trends, I could be first by round 18. Maybe 2024.
Here we go.
But now going all right. On the up into the 9,000s now. So just coming for you, eh?
On the move. Also with us, joining us for the first time in studio, SC Playbook podcast went into studio, started this season. If you are new to the podcast, she was a regular all last season. She was good value, but living in Queensland. Don't hold that too much against her because she's not a Queenslander, but it is 2021 sixth-placed finisher, the lovely Clementine Cassidy. Clem, welcome to the studio.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, very, very exciting. So, as I said, Clem, most people will know you from the weekly wrap. You know, you do that with Nick Moon, the comedic write-up of the round in review each week. But tell us a bit about yourself and your Supercoach background, your footy background.
Sure. So I'm a Kiwi. I moved to the Goldie about 11 years ago, so I'm still there. So I am an honorary Queenslander. So started playing Supercoach back in 2020 and then came sixth in 2021. Pretty excited about that. So I'm the one that writes the weird articles. So last year I sold myself
infamous.
a Talakai. I'm the one that's obsessed with Nicho's hair. I got to touch Nicho's hair almost on Sunday.
Almost? I thought you said you did touch it.
Well, I touched Nicho. I didn't quite get to his hair.
Okay.
I did bring my gel and he did touch my gel bottle, so that was nice.
So you're obviously down in Sydney for the week. You got out to Brookie Oval on the weekend with, I don't know what the purpose of the trip was, but a big part of me feels like it was to get a hand on Nicho Hynes, like every woman's dream.
Absolute ulterior motive, and so stoked that I did that. So got to the end of the game and then it started raining, like couldn't be more perfect. And then we were like chasing like around the side, like just trying to find a spot where he might come. And then he comes over and he was like, "How's it going?" And I had my little bottle of gel here that I bought just in case I had to run out and wet his hair. And I was like, instead of being like really smooth, this is how smooth I am. I was like, yeah, can I have a photo with my gel? And then got a photo with him.
Oh, stop
And then
it.
so excited about the photo, but I was like, why did I not think of something better to say? Like, can I have a photo with my gel?
Oh, and Nicho?
And he got a photo. I got a photo.
Of course he did.
I need to share it on the WhatsApp group, and I'll share it on Twitter as well.
He obviously got the photo, Nicho, but what would he have been thinking when this Kiwi girl goes, "Can you get a photo with my gel, please?"
I know. So, Clem, sixth place overall in 2021. By my quick math, 85 positions higher than the Spy's best ever finish.
I bet the Spy every single year. I'm beating him again this year as well.
Claiming you beat me every year. I've known you for about 18 months, but fair play. I gave my best year, top 100, and I still couldn't get near.
Also with us, definitely as always, is Matty the Waterboy. Matty, you've been on a bit of a charge of late yourself, both on and off the Supercoach field. How's the side going?
Yeah, I haven't really updated you. I've had a really bad week this week.
Oh, no.
I dropped about 5,000 spots. As I said to you, like pretty recently, obviously I'm a new Supercoach player and I look at my score and I never really, the number always clicks in my head. Never what if 50,000 other people got a higher number than my, So I got like just under 1,150 and I thought, that's pretty good. And it turns out it wasn't good at all. I dropped about 5,000 spots. So that's all right. On to next week.
Yeah, like in a week where four popular players in Supercoach get double tons and, you've scored 1,400 and you check it of a Monday, you're like, mad score. Like, I'm going to soar this week. But the average that week is like 1,800 points.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what happened.
Clem, what'd you say you're at now? About 5,000, 6,000?
I'm coming 6,274. So I actually dropped about 1,000 places. Scored a 12.17, so not so bad. But that's okay. I think I'm topping the SC Playbook head-to-head league.
Are you?
I am.
Your co-writer, Nick Moon, knocked me off by 6 points in that. I think it was Turbo I don't know how you can update from 6 points, whoever is on it full time, but Turbo's updates knocked me off from Nick Moon. So, yeah, fair play. The Stallions, not a great week, 1,201 points. I thought that'd be about par. Dropped about 1,000 spots to 5,400 overall. So, not too bad, but yeah, hopefully a bit more green this week. Guys, the SC Playbook Unlimited group, $1,000 going to the winner. The cutoff for that group will be the end of round 12, so Sunday evening. Jump in and enter that immediately if you're not, because after that I will have screenshotted it and I'll know if you're there or not come end of season. So if you try and tell me that you won the group and you weren't in by round 12, well, it's not going to work that way. The code is 845051. On today's show, the key takes from Team List Tuesday. Our topic: lots of questions around plans at halfback through the origin period. Can you run Cleary and Nicho throughout? Are you looking elsewhere? So we'll have a chat about that. Our hot topics for the week, as always, with Valynce Te Whare dropped last week's most popular buy. Big news there. Wrapping up with our round 12 trades and skippers and into a few listener questions. Let's get stuck into Team this Tuesday. And Spy, that is the big news. Te Whare dropped. You know, they had the buy last week. People brought him in anyway. Brenko's back in. Ewan Aitken did have a hamstring niggle, so maybe in a bit of doubt, but like the chance he comes in game day, but he was brought for a combination of things. One being cash gen, which it's still 2 weeks away because he still only played the one game, and secondly that buy coverage, so that hurts.
Definitely hurts. Obviously, if you are an owner, looking to my right here, we might have someone, but you just hope he plays round 13. He might get the call up, in which case you're laughing, but yeah, it was risky, wasn't it? Talk us through it, Clem.
Well, I'm like really sad in my heart. I literally, honestly thought he might still get named. But to be honest, it kind of worked out well for me because I dropped Warbrick for him, which was sad because Warbrick scored a couple of tries. But then it meant I could go Miley to Tohu Harris. So
worked out okay.
I'm not too sad about it.
So
I'm
now you've got
that at some time he gets named.
So now you've got two blokes this week who aren't playing, Te Whare and Tohu Harris. It's worked out well. I hope you're enjoying your time.
Let's keep it at two blokes.
Hope you're enjoying your time in front of me.
The amount of people that bought people on buys coming up, I didn't really see. But anyway, so look, it's hardly panic stations because you still have a chance to play next week in round 13, although he needs something to go his way. Even if he doesn't, you still think there'll be games that he'll get it in time to generate some cash. So it'll be all right, but you certainly want him there for round 13. Adam Reynolds is out for the Broncos. That means Reece Walsh will kick goals. Adam Reynolds was one that, due to going off early in that game, really high break-even. So if he played this week, he could have been a sneaky little halfback throughout the bye period at like 500k playing around 13. But because he's out, he won't get that big price drop. Means he's going into round 13 with a huge break. Even, I think Te Whare was the most traded-in player last week. Max Feeney, he was like the third most traded in, and Zach Lomax is back in now. Feeney's dropped. Also, he scored about 21 points and has a break-even of about 27, made about 40k. Spy, we get a lot wrong on this podcast, but those were two that we were pretty confident on saying don't go near them.
Yeah, a few people just getting a bit trigger happy perhaps, but that's all right. These things happen. As I said, hope they come back in when you need them most. If I can just jump back quickly, Reynolds out is an interesting one for Reece Walsh owners just because he'll kick goals, but they potentially score a lot less points and put Reynolds in Reece Walsh in a lot less space. So I'd actually prefer Reynolds to play if I owned him, but just interesting to see how that plays out and how Walsh goes without his main number 7 there.
I mean, I very reluctantly sold him last week, which at halftime in the Broncos Storm game, I was like, he looked unreal. I was like, what have you done? I didn't want to do it. I needed to fund my other miraculous trade in of Alex Johnston, who netted me a whole 40 points. So I'm glad I made that happen. Anyway, it worked out fine because the second half he hardly put on a point, finished on about 67. I got in Dream Buller, who went well enough considering the Tigers didn't score a point, but I mean, I think if you've got Walsh now, the break-even is balanced out with 2 decent weeks, so you absolutely hold him this week. And the way Ponga played, I think he's the Maroons' fullback, and Walsh more and more likely to be available for round 13. So.
Just hope he goes off, and then obviously you can use Reece Walsh in that critical round 14 as well. So yeah, you just got to hope that he goes well because he still looks good. He's a weapon.
Spy, the talking point I think of the week for me, and a lot of questions around it. Joey Manu out with a rolled ankle. I think there was a few reports out that it might have been relatively bad, but I only care about what NRL Physio says. So, and he said if it is what the reports say, that he said 1 to 2 weeks out. He was missing next week anyway. Drew Hutchinson comes into the halves, by the way, for Joey Manu. Sam Walker is also out injured. I think there is probably a fair likelihood that pending when Sammy Walker returns, let's say Manu and Sammy Walker return round 14, that Walker does return in the halves and Manu at centre. What do you do with Joey Manu?
Definitely holding, mate. I think it's one of those things, if we get word over the next week or two that it's longer than it seems, there were some mixed reports, but yeah, NRL Physio was hopeful that would only be, possibly could have played this week. So with the bye afterwards, could be back for round 14. I don't mind him in the centres. I think most of us picked him up pretty cheap, and we know what he can do there. Play him right through to round 16 when he's on the bye and reassess after that for me.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. I'm looking at the options, but if he's expected to be back round 14, him through that bye period in round 16 coverage.
And just the only other thing, Teddy could rest.
Yeah, he could play
round 14. He could play fullback.
Big chance
if he's
play
fullback, you want it. You have to own him.
Yeah, I mean the difference is, at fullback he just thinks run.
Yeah.
At 5'8", you can see him trying to ball play. It's like Joey.
Trying to organise, just run, brother. Just run. Get into dummy half and go.
Yes. Clem, are you a Manu owner?
I am a Manu owner.
What are you thinking?
Holding. Definitely
Holding?
holding. I just think it's not an urgent trade for me. I've got way more urgent trades than that.
Far more
So,
issues.
yeah, no, 100% holding him. And, yeah, hoping that he'll just give that coverage that we kind of got him for when he's
For
back.
sure.
Yeah.
Hayes Dunster, another of the cheapie brigade going down. Not a lot of owners, I don't believe, out there, but there'd be enough who would be stinging by Dunster out, who they would have been looking as a number for round 13. So all these job security issues that are just such big flags when you are making your trades around cheapies. Still no C for Talakai at the Sharkies. Probably not enormously irrelevant, but anyone who did jump on for his good recent run, that one hurts. The Fox, Josh Addo-Carr, was named to come back last week. He didn't play. Blake Wilson came in. So the Fox is back this week. Blake Wilson, impressive debutant last weekend. Bit of go about him.
Just quietly, wow. I kept thinking Reid Marnie was having 20 hit-ups. Like, come on. He's had the white headgear. But, yeah, boy can play.
He's good.
But the Fox back just in time for Origin. Interesting to see what happens there.
Spy, the next few coming up have made you a very happy little spy this afternoon. Carl Oluwapu starting for the Doggies. Now, Oluwapu is one that no round 13 coverage for the Dogs, but come round 14, what's he at now? 219k. So he's made 19 grand, 26 break even. So you as a current owner, by the way, you went very early on Oluwapu, but Oluwapu, we sensed this was coming. He's a gun, so hopefully he locks in that starting role. Round 16 coverage for the Dogs will probably be a pretty popular buy for round 14 after the buy, along with his mate Jacob Kiraz on the wing at the Doggies, who, I've said this a couple of weeks ago, will be the most traded in player around 14. He will be. He's going to be sub 500k.
Incredible.
But you'd be happy about Carl.
Stoked, just because I sort of brought him in almost to save a trade. I sort of looked forward and hoped that come round 14 he'd be starting. He covers round 14, then plays 16 and 19. You little beauty, he looks good. So maybe starting the game, he might get a...
Well, that's true. Very significant for you, for owners that did jump on early for that cash grab. I hadn't thought about it, but round 14, a lot of people pairing up Brown and Oluwapu. So you would have had to play Oluwapu, potentially limited minutes off the bench. But if he's starting, I feel a lot better.
I put my faith in him like I put my faith in this next bloke I think you're about to mention.
Jake Trbojevic. So Jake Trbojevic is back for Manly, which is just... Had a stat on the Bloke in the Bar podcast yesterday. I think I read out he's missed 6 games for Manly in the last 2 years. Basically been belted in every game.
Yep, doesn't shock.
Everyone says the turbo effect. What about the gerbo effect? But it's not the gerbo or the turbo we're talking about. It's the burbo.
The Burbo.
Benny Trbojevic, who you tried to convince me into buying. You didn't try to convince me, but you brought him in 3 or so weeks ago, and I was like, mate, I get it, but at the time, he was still a fair way. At the time, he was listed to return from a hamstring injury about round 12 or 13. You went on him anyway for his dual position buy coverage. Anyway, Kelvin Tuolungi's hurt. Dual seated up, 2RF, near bottom dollar. You own him. Obviously, there's the Manly buy coverage. Starting back row, the awkward thing for non-owners is that neg 3 break even, so there's a good cash rise coming this week.
Yeah, so he'll be worth another 90k after his time this week, which is good.
Against the Raiders, please.
But yeah, no, it'd be interesting to see back row there. He looked really good last week. I was watching once Kelma went off, and I actually thinking like he could get this spot, and he has, which is awesome. So we'll see what happens
on the
there.
bone now, Burbo.
Yeah, he's grown up a bit,
Yeah.
the young fella, but yeah, he's looking good, and he's actually now relegated someone to that Manly pack from my boy. Kepi's no longer my number one boy in the Manly pack. I've had a bit of fun with him, but I'm actually genuinely excited about Burbo. Kepi was more of a bit of a laugh. He might get me 40, but Burbo got something in him.
Another good one for Burbo. So the dual positions kicked in this week, Spy, and we saw Joey Manu go dual CT dub 5'8". We saw Tyrone Peachy dual CT dub 2RF. So Burbo there to be able to interchange those two. Great. Benny Trebojevic, Clem, at such a cheap price. Is he a bloke you'd be keen on?
Yeah, I think so. I just really want to have Spy's crystal ball because he just seems to bring in all the right people. And I bring in people like Te Whare. But yeah, no, I would definitely bring him in, 100%.
Yeah, you've been on this podcast enough times, maybe not this year, Clem, but to know that we throw shade at the Spy and we don't wrap him, so we don't need to give the big fella a big head.
I like this girl.
He doesn't need any more boys.
Yeah, no, he doesn't need any more boys, that's true.
Just quietly, Kepi's starting. I didn't realise. That's handy as well.
Yeah, yep.
Round 13, baby. Ring it.
So Toa Sipley is also back from suspension next week, so that, I mean, it's not going to impact Burbo, but Kepi, but again.
Yeah, I mean, don't go buying Kepi, but
Yeah, good for you.
you already own him.
The last one on the team list, Scotty Sorensen last week. 175 Supercoach points. Love that man so much. Rightly so, a relatively popular trade in this week. Liam Martin has been named on the bench again. Zach Hosking has been named to start. Matty, I might throw to you here, mate. I mean, Liam Martin will be in and around the New South Wales squad, but you would think this week, after coming back off the bench last week, he'd be looking for big minutes to stake a final claim to Freddie and the Blues.
I think so, especially given it's a hamstring injury. He's going to want to prove to Freddie that he's 100% fit because that's one injury you obviously don't want to be going into Origin with. So yeah, I see him having a real crack this week.
Like Freddie'd be so reluctant to pick Liam Martin, who he'd probably want as a starting back row for the Blues. Very reluctant to pick him if he comes off and plays 30 or 40 off the bench this week for Penrith.
100%, yeah. Especially, like, I wouldn't say we're stacked in the back row. I mean, we are in terms of people that could play there. Obviously, we're not stacked there with experience. Yeah. Probably for the first time in New South Wales Origin history, or certainly since I've been alive, we're always stacked in the back row with a lot of experience. But yeah, the Blues need Liam Martin, and I think Liam Martin knows that, and he'll want to smack a lot of minutes this week.
Yeah. So on that note, Scotty Sorensen, when he scored, I was like, sweet, no round 13 coverage, but a potential bit of a cheapie there for not a cheapie for us, but a bit of a cash grab, short-term play with some high point scoring upside. Spy 636k.
So the only thing is, with that score in his rolling average, if Liam Martin wasn't on the bench, I'd say, okay, do you want to lock him in for a couple of weeks? A, you can play him and be half confident of a reasonable score. B, you can take an easy 100k, then move him on to basically whoever you want. So there's logic behind it. Liam Martin there, what are his minutes going to look like? Is he going to play 40, 50? Does he play 70? We don't know. I don't think it's utterly crazy because you're guaranteed cash, but I just feel like you probably might be wasting a trade. Is there a better way to do that? We've got some other guys making cash who you might be able to keep
some really
and
good
just really
grabs.
grow over the next month or two. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think it's madness, but do you desperately need that 100k?
Put it this way, and we'll chat more about Zach Hosking later in the show because he's one of the most sold players this week, very popular player in Supercoach. But Hosking played, I think, 30 minutes last week, went off for a HIA. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he passed it, and he'd had a few niggles, Martin, and they'd got out to a nice early lead against the Roosters, and they basically rested him for the rest of the game. They're like, we don't need to play him. So Hosking's going to go back to anywhere from 50 to 60 to an 80-minute edge. Martin will get big minutes. We know that Sorensen has been used at the Panthers as an impact role off the bench in like a 50-minute role.
Whether Martin maybe plays some time in the middle or something like that, we don't know. But again, it's fraught with danger.
Yeah.
I'm not off it, but there's some other guys like, your Billy Smiths and co that probably guaranteed cash. Yeah.
Guys, if you enjoy SC Playbook and all the effort that goes into the site, you can support it by subscribing to our NRL package for $40 or our full package, NRL AFL BBL for $50. Gives you access to additional premium articles each and every week on the SC Playbook website, access to our WhatsApp group, our community with threads around game day, team advice, late mail, contributor only for our last-minute trades and skipper plans that change over the course of the week. All sorts of different things there. The halfback punting thread there for our updated plays. Access to our limited major group prize worth $1,000. Head to the menu onside.scplaybook.com.au to find the subscribe tab there if that interests you. Let's get stuck into our first topic of the show, and it is our plans at halfback through the Origin period. Now, It's a fascinating one because there aren't Cleary and Nicho, arguably the two best players in Supercoach at the moment, at least the most reliable. And both Nicho likely to play Origin this season. Cleary will obviously be there. Both have okay bye schedules with their clubs, but I'll start with you, Spy. And the first question before we get into our plans, can you hold Cleary and Nicho throughout Origin?
Yeah, so I am, is my initial answer to that question. Would you like to know why?
Yeah, fire.
Yeah, guess that's why we're here.
Yep.
So I'll throw a caveat in here that I'm going to be ready for a late out for either of these two. Let's say they're both playing Origin and starting. Every chance at some point they're going to get a rest. So you just need to be aware then that you might be short in the halfback position, but you can still get an automatic emergency. So it's just one of those things. It'll depend who your AE is. It'll depend what's happening, but maybe have a plan to flip one of those guys if necessary. If you're flipping anyone, it'd be Nicho. He's got, let's just say he makes Origin at this point. If he doesn't make Origin, hold him for sure. But if he does, he won't play round 13. Round 14, maybe Trindle plays. We don't know. But they've got Brisbane, then Melbourne.
Just cut in. We'll see what happens. We don't know, but I get the idea after Luai's massive performance on the weekend that he's 5'8" and Nicho's off the bench, so you would assume they're limited minutes, which
wouldn't worry me. He'll play.
Yeah. So he's playing next week. Round 14. But yeah, carry on.
Yep. What does happen though? Round 16 he then wouldn't play, and then round 17 they've got the bye. So it's a little period there where he doesn't play. Just be aware. Round 18 they've got St George. He terrorises St George every time. So I think you want him back for that game. But you can still do that if you needed to. For me, he's a bit of a wait and see, reassess depending on what happens with Origin. Cleary, on the other hand, I'll be holding. He's got Saints round 14. Again, maybe he doesn't play, but I don't want to be not owning Cleary against Saints if he's finding some form in Penrith. Yeah.
I really want, from a Supercoach perspective, of course, the Broncos to knock off Panthers, just so they fall a little bit further down the ladder. They don't quite have the comfort to ease these players through Origin, whereas if they win this week, they'll be sitting top, if not equal, top of the table, sort of thing, thereabouts, and it just becomes that little bit easier. So Nicho is on the chopping block for me because massive break even this week, so he's likely to be sub sort of. I mean, to be fair, he could go massive this week against the Knights, so we're very flaky indeed.
Yep.
But after this week, plays this week, probably at around about 900 grand. It's a lot of money to be sitting there in the pine. The two games post Origin are against Brisbane and then Melbourne. Brisbane, I believe, is at Shark Park, and then Melbourne is at Amy Park. Two very difficult games. As you said, then he misses 16 and 17. So he'll play 2 of 5 games, and those 2 games are very difficult. With that, Clem, I'll throw to you. Mm-hmm. Do you see yourself holding Nicho and Cleary throughout the Origin period? Do you dare sell your boy, Nicho, particularly after touching him? I feel like after getting a hand on him on the big fella last weekend, it'd almost be, not cool.
I know, it's like sacrilege. It's so bad. So I'm like so torn on this. So I did try and crunch numbers and stuff, and I know I'm the mathematician of our generation, but I couldn't quite do it. So I feel like for my team, I don't know if it's viable for me to hold both of them throughout that period. So I think I kind of need to think about moving one of them on, and it was Nicho. And just for the reasons that you said, I feel like Cleary. I think he'll probably play if he backs up. I feel like I'd probably rather have him there maybe than Nicho. And so I was looking at different choices that I could bring in. There's obviously Mitch Moses, but then he's not playing 14, and I feel like I'm going to be really screwed if I don't have someone playing 14 there. So if no one backs up. So then I was thinking Shaun Johnson, Spies boy. SJ. So he's averaging 69. He's playing 13 and 14, so that gives me my coverage there. It would be Nicho that I would have to reluctantly move on for him. And yeah, I just feel like you could get away with going Shaun Johnson maybe.
And it's where it becomes interesting because there aren't any standard options. So Mitch Moses obviously misses 14. He has that really low, he has the 10 or whatever it was from a couple of weeks ago in his rolling average. So he is going to plummet some cash, one would think. I'm leaning towards Spy holding Cleary, selling Nicho for the reasons I mentioned before. Cleary has a great schedule through Origin in terms of we couldn't have asked for much more. misses 13, 16, 19, the 3 Origin weeks, but he doesn't, barring restings, which are always a possibility. We know that's viable. But he won't miss any games outside of that. As you said, he plays the Dragons after round 13. That is Sunday afternoon. I believe it's the last game of the round. So it's, 4 or 5 day turnaround. So as good as you can get. Look, he's obviously dealing with a little bit of a groin niggle that saw him not kick before. I think he's pretty good, but we're guessing as to whether or not he rests in games, but he wants a Dally M so bad.
Yeah.
And I reckon Ivan wants him to get Dally M so bad as well. So I don't think he's really going to want to rest games. So I'm thinking hold Cleary through the bye period, sell Nicho Hynes.
Okay. So, a couple of things. Clem's laughing at me. She knows I'm coming after you. I'm not coming after you. I've just got a thought.
No, do come half.
You buy SJ, right?
Change my behind.
You buy SJ, right? I don't think you can buy Mitch. That would have been an obvious candidate if you played round 14. That's what I probably would have done. If you buy SJ, you're banking on him averaging that up around 70, which he may do. But say he regresses, Nora's regressed just a little bit, and he averages 55, which is more than feasible. Or, God forbid, he gets hurt. Nicho comes back out round 14 and 15 and goes 120, 120, which is not even madness at all. He could easily do it. And then all of a sudden you go, just missed out on 200 plus points over 2 weeks. I've used a trade. Then you get to round 16 and you go, I don't even need the halfback spot anyway because I've got 13 other players. I'm just not so convinced there's someone good enough to replace Nicho with. If Mitch was averaging 80 and playing round 14, I think it'd be different. But I'm just more, my gut says hold him. As I said, we'll reassess after Origin. Don't sell him before round 13. I don't think it's madness. That's my feeling on it.
If only you had little Phoenix Crossland sitting with his dual 5'8" halfback status at 5'8" right now. In which case, you could swap him up to halfback and bring in Cody Walker for games against the Raiders, Titans, Dragons, Cowboys, Warriors, Dogs.
This seems like a pretty good ploy. No, see, I like that.
Yeah.
I think he's at the calibre to go, yep, he might be able to cover that with upside. I think SJ is at his peak at the moment, which is so good to see. I don't know if he can average much more than 69, 70. Could be wrong. He might go back to 55, 60. My question to you, is it worth it? I think one thing is it's how good does it make the rest of your side? That'll be individual based. If you drop Nicho to an SJ or similar and you can get someone else amazing and go, gee, this looks good, sweet. But just make sure it's worth it, my friend.
So in the interim, I'm thinking that next week, wouldn't do it this week, despite Nicho's massive break even. I'm not selling him for this night's game, not a chance.
Oh, no.
But, yeah, Crossland to halfback, to partner Cleary, Cody to 5'8", who's getting down to a bit more. He peaked at 825k, he's down to 778k now, break even 90, so hopefully even get him at a bit more of a reduced rate, but we'll see. Just a great run of games coming up.
Yeah, I like it. Cody looks good.
Yeah, so that's the way I'm leaning at the moment. And then from round 14, I can look at things like, going Crossland to Jerome Hughes is a sneaky little one. If any other halfback puts their hand up, maybe I'll see if Matty Burton's around the Origin camp, but we'll see.
Yep.
That's where I'm at the moment. So, yeah. Guys, over the next 12 months, an estimated 60% of all fixed-rate mortgages are going to expire. Absolute madness. This means that for a lot of you out there, you haven't felt the impacts of all the consecutive rate rises that have been dominating the media talk lately. I've spoken with Paddy and George from Mortgage Choice SCW about this in detail. They've told me that a lot of their clients still have a rate with a 1 or 2 in front of it. The average rate is now around 5%. What does this mean? Essentially, that for a lot of people, their mortgage repayments are about to increase on average by an extra $737 per month. It's a lot of extra money to have to find in your budget. So if you haven't had a look at when your fixed rate expires, or if you're worried about when it does, give the experts Paddy and George a call so they can get you on the best rate possible and keep more money in your pockets to put less stress on the finances. You'll save yourself $129 on a free consult because you're an SC Playbook listener. So make sure you mention SC Playbook when you get in contact with them. To do so, flick them a message on Instagram at Pat and George Mortgage Choice, all one word, or call them on 02 9521 1611. All that info is in our articles on scplaybook.com.au, plus their emails, all that good stuff. Hot topics of the week. Now, Spy, Billy Smith. We're all looking at round 13 coverage, and Billy Smith does not cover it with the Roosters, but 289k. Break even is negative 68 odd. He's on fire, basing 44 per game in his first 2 games this season, despite the no coverage. And I know where we mentioned last week that we're getting to that point where we turn our focus from cash generation to points. Pretty hard to pass up.
It is hard to pass up. I personally didn't get Buller last week. I actually had him locked in, then I reversed the trade because I wanted Billy. Obviously available in the centres is handy. You can lock him in there as a 6th, 7th centre. I've just a few numbers I've done here. If he scores 45 and 45 the next 2 weeks, barring injury, because he has had a wretched run, the poor fella, he should get that, which makes him 130k like that. You can play him if you need it.
In games against the Dragons and Dragons and Bulldogs in a Roosters side who will be hurting.
Yep, hurting on the up, and he just looks awesome. He looks so good.
Yeah.
And if you make 60, if he scores 60 and 60, very feasible. It's 165k. I think it's hard to pass up for a bloke that you could then lock in probably for the rest of the season if you want to. And then just if you want to sell him down the line for 500 plus. Hard to pass up. Some injury risk, but yeah, I love it.
Well, yeah, he plays 16, doesn't play 19. As you alluded to last week, the round 16 is not that, for most squads, shouldn't be that hard a week to get numbers for. Clem, what are your thoughts? Billy Smith, keen this week?
Oh, I love him. He looks so good. Yeah, I definitely want to bring him in this week. He's such a cash cow, like break even of negative 62, sorry. And only misses 13, plays all the way through. Like, I definitely want to get him into my team somehow. But yeah, I'd reckon go for it if you want to get him.
I like Spy that with him, as you mentioned, I don't see him turning into a keeper, but he's a very playable cheapie to be bringing in. A bit like, I know Taruva hasn't hit the heights, but I felt so good with Taruva in my team because I'm like, you know what, if I need to play a 4 centre wing,
it's good floor.
You can do
with
it.
Some upside, yeah. I'm not saying, again, and round 14, again, you sort of don't overlook the fact that he's going to be such a viable number in round 14.
Yeah. Harrison Edwards. Ooh, I was very close to bringing him in last week. Because, like everyone, we needed a front row forward cheapie. Everyone always needs a front row forward cheapie. That they just don't exist until Harrison Edwards turns up. Because I was looking at going Stefano to him, and I was like, cool. Bottom dollar, 2 good scores in there, playing decent minutes. He was named on the bench though, so then he went on to starting lock game day. By then it was too late.
I wish he played Sunday because I ended up having a trade spare by then.
Yeah.
And I could have gone Pele up, but yeah.
Anyway, 297k, neg 47 break even, 94 last weekend against the Warriors with 57 in base. He had a try there and a line break. Front row forward only. What do you reckon?
For someone who can go Pele straight to him, I'm finding it very hard to pass up. He plays rounds 14, 16 and 19. Again, the worst case scenario here is he goes back to a bench role, probably makes a quick 80, 100k. You can flip him. Instead of being stuck with someone like a Pele, you've got a 400k front rower who you can do whatever you want to do with. Best case, he keeps that role because he's on fire and keeps playing 60 to 70 or whatever it may be and turns into a 550k bloke who can cover the buys, and then you flip him to an Origin bloke or something after that. Hard to pass up, depending who you're selling.
On the other thought process, though, Jackson Topany... No, I'm not thinking... Not Topany.
Sutton?
Well, back. I mean, on the extended bench, you've got Topany. Not named on the extended bench is Chris Patolo, who returned through New South Wales Cup last week. Big raps on him at the club. They really like him. So does he come in and eat in some minutes? Does Sutto? As far as this week goes, the minutes look pretty decent.
There's definitely risk.
Right, so I agree that he's a pretty solid buy because he's going to make some sort of cash at worst case scenario. Clem, I'll throw it to you. Also no round 13 coverage, which I am scraping for 13 players in round 13, which I'm okay. So it'll be anywhere from 12 or 13. We'll get to a question around that later. Yep. But I don't want to bring in Billy Smith or Edwards because I'm happy with my cash gen. I don't need them both.
Only need one.
I prefer Billy Smith as a buy, comfortably. So in that sense, I'm like, what are your thoughts on him? Do you like him as a cash grab?
I actually do like him as a cash grab. I was like, where have you been?
You're just following the spy and everything.
Yeah, well, basically.
Yeah.
But no, definitely, I really like him, and I was desperately trying last night to do Pele to him, and I can't quite do it, which is so frustrating. So yeah, I reckon if you can bring him in, do bring him in. Like, I think he's going to be good in that position. Obviously, doesn't play that round 13, but still, I think worth getting in. I'm a bit like you, though. I am scraping for round 13 players because obviously I've planned my team really well. But yeah, no, I don't see anything wrong with getting him in. Negative 46 break even, going to make cash.
Yeah. So
happy days.
And that's where, interesting, like, I have planned for round 13 for a while now, but I've actually gone down more the cash route than making sure I've got 30. We talk about not tearing our sides apart for the buyer's spy, and I got Buller last week who wasn't playing round 13. I was like, you know what? I can afford that. I'm looking this week at bringing Billy Smith in despite the round 13 coverage. So I'm going, there's big cash incoming there. I think Billy Smith will be my last, barring the obvious ones that just make sense. Billy Smith will be my last real cash grab play before the attention completely goes to points.
Yep, and I think it's really important to look at round 13. I'll just use my team as a scenario to sort of work it off, but I've got, at the moment, 11 players for round 13.
Pre or post trades this
right
week?
now. But both trades, if I bring those two guys in, don't play, so it doesn't get me any closer to my round 13 sides. I've got 11 at the moment. I'll then use my 3 trades next week to get to 14. We'll get to that number later. But that means if 2 blokes drop out between now and next week, I'll be stuck with 12, which may or may not be okay, but you'd like 13. So it's just one of those things, depending what your current numbers are and your trades, just know that you get, after this week, 3 trades next week, leading the buy, 4 if you've got a boost and you want to use it. I don't have a boost, so I've got to realise I've got 3 there to use, and we've had probably a pretty good run the last few weeks, but 2 or 3 blokes could go down, and all of a sudden you go, oh, I probably shouldn't have got old mate Edwards because now I'm short. But there's a bit of luck involved there. It's just something to consider.
Hallam Lukey is currently what is he at? The 6th most traded in play this week. I have been a Lukey fanboy for a good while now. So in one sense, last weekend, I was really annoyed that he went nuts for 121 points. And I'm like, I want him as a pod before he went bonkers last week. But on the flip side, I'm like, well, now he's definitely going to make cash. So it makes it a far safer trade in. Yeah. Now, has had a pretty troubled injury history in the past 2 years since sort of making he debuted the year before in the NRL, but really becoming a regular on the edge for the Cowboys. I've had a look at his numbers in games of 60 minutes above in the past 2 years. Not a lot of them, but he's a workhorse. He's a gun. He will find attacking stats. I describe him as Fredo hasn't seen a lot of him, a more athletic Sean Lane. It's not saying he's better footballer than Sean Lane, but he's very, very gifted. 2023, last week he played 60 minutes for 121 points, had 45 in base with 2 tries. Round 5 this year, 77 points in 71 minutes. That was with 49 in base with 1 try assist. Back to last year, round 13, 76 points in 68 minutes, 37 in base. Base down a bit, but 1 try again. Round 6, last year, 90 points in 80 minutes with 57 in base with 1 try. He's just good. And I really like him as a buy this week. Again, not without risk. There's injury risk. Nanai's not back to round 14. People sort of said, oh, what about his return? He's not back to round 14, so that's not a huge concern. This might be ambitious, but I think he's borderline keeper material if he gets into that 80-minute role. Do you like him, Spy?
I love Lukey. I think Manu have loved him for a while. Supercoach-wise this week, my only concern is the minutes. They're obviously easing him back a little bit after his ACL, which makes sense. So
ACL and then hamstring was his last injury
so
only
he's
4 or 5
gone
weeks ago.
Last 2 weeks, 55 and 60 minutes. If it stays at 55-60, I don't like him all that much, but he could still score his try and do a job. He absolutely could because he's so bloody good. On the flip side, if they push him up to 70 plus and they go, you're getting healthier, stay out there, brother. Tell you what, it'll be a hard watch because he's such a good player. Cowboys should be pretty strong heading into those buys. They played round 13, I think 14 and 16.
Yeah, 13, 14, 16. So the buy round 17, which is round 15, which is sweet.
Which is fine, doesn't matter that much. For me, break even's 14, so he pumps out. If he goes from this week he's sitting at 520k. If he looks awesome again and goes to 590, probably buy him anyway.
You can wait. You can wait a week.
But yeah, I think just those minutes are my only concern, so I'm not quite sure where I'll land on that. But the boy can play footy, so generally that's a fair old tick.
It's one of my going with, and I'm pretty good in. I'll generally let the head do the talking and not the heart. But it's one of them eye tests where I'm like, you know what? He's going to keep doing this. He's going to keep scoring tries, and I'm going to sit here every week and go, you pelican.
Yeah, he's a gun.
Yeah.
He's a gun.
With the worst case of making money and playing next week, barring God forbid injury, I think I'm going to do it. Jeremy Marshall King, $680,000. Lots of questions, Clem, around hookers and who to bring in around the Origin period, what plans are. Break even 62. This season, he has 8 games, 1 score under 53 points. Pretty viable option, fresh off the bye. Any interest there?
Oh, I love him. I'm looking to bring him in.
Do you not love anyone in the NRL? Or?
Well, I love Lukey too. So it was like, I don't know. But yeah, no, definitely. I want to bring him in. So I need to bring him in at the expense of Harry because I have Sonny Luke and I don't think I can do that swap. I don't think I have enough cash. So I wouldn't do it until next week. And I've got a big thing to do. So everyone will smell my brain overheating later. So he's at the moment only owned by 5% of teams. That was probably gone up this week. I think he's a little bit of. I think he's just great. Obviously, plays round 13, and then only misses the round 16 over that tricky period. So
great draw.
100% get him in. I'm definitely getting him in. Actually, I've just convinced myself.
On the run.
Job done.
Not until next week. So I think I'll just hold off this week. What's his break even this week? It's 63. And then next week he's coming in for Harry for me.
Yeah.
If you've got a back rower who also is available at centre, so Travojevic, Peachy, these sort of guys, you can go Val straight to Lukey next week. So Valentine Holmes down to Lukey next week if you like what you see. That's an option as well.
Spy, I'm leaning towards Reece Robson because he's 100k cheaper. The Cowboys and Dolphins have the great draw through that period. Dolphins probably, I think, slightly better maybe, but both great draws. I don't think there's a knock which way you go. I just think JMK has been killing it and he's probably priced around about his top. No harm in buying him, but I just think Robson might be the one with more to give and is at a better rate.
Yeah, cheaper, and maybe the option is to get Robson in for round 13 next week, roll him through 13, 14 and 16, then flip him to Jeremy Marshall for round 19, and then just hold Jeremy Marshall for the year
as your second. Look at Harry.
Maybe something like that's the option.
Don't mind that.
I might potentially do that. All just sort of depends on what happens next week, but I think that's not a bad little ploy.
Spy Payne Haas, we won't spend a lot of time on him, but he was, at the time of putting the plan together, the 10th most traded in, 710k. Just the only word to describe him is Adonis.
Yeah, it's best not to speak about him at the moment, but he's so good.
Again,
don't get him though right now.
People
please.
say you're mad for not having had him this season. I'm like, he's been unbelievable. He's averaging 77.
Yeah. And this is the whole reason I don't own him is because next week Origin starts. That's the whole logic around it, and hasn't gone great so far, admittedly. But Tarpany's coming into form. He looked great last week. I'm not going to. Please don't buy Haas now. It could be good, but I just think if you're playing overall and you're chasing those max points, get your Tarpany and those sort of boys who's going to play all the buys without rest risks.
Yeah, I think Haas has every chance at rest through the Origin period because the Broncos are killing it and he's just played massive minutes. He'll continue to play big minutes in Origin. I think they're mad if they don't give him a few spells. And I forgot to say before, I don't know if I said it or not, but Billy Smith and Harrison Edwards, head-to-head players can get both because the major buy-in's less relevant. So
head-to-head, you just lock in your cash.
If you want them,
stack yourself, and then you can build your team from there.
Yeah. So moving on from there, Jack de Belin, 650k, dual to our front row 4. We've spoken a fair bit of depth about him, but again, number 11 most traded in this week. Scored a try last week. New coach incoming at the Dragons. I think he's reached his peak now, and I'd just be a little cautious around that one. I think there are other front row forwards to go for. If minutes do drop with a new coach, who knows what's going to happen there. Tyrone Peachy, who, it's just been glorious watching him do his thing. It really has, the peach. Do we think, I'll start with you, Clem, is it too late to get on him because no round 13 coverage? He's made some good coin at the moment. Still a negative break-even, -3 break-even, 404k, so still affordable. playing great footy, offers round 16 buy coverage. Too late on the peach, or could you make an argument for buying him still?
I think I could still make an argument for buying him. Like, if you desperately want him in your life more than anything, like, I still think you can get him. Like, he's still going to make a bit of cash. But, yeah, I feel like he's the one that got away from me. I have way bigger problems in my team than thinking about getting him in now. But I do wish I had listened to you and brought him in.
Yes, well, let's have any listen to Spy. Do you have him, Spy?
No, I've got Lemuelu, please. I don't need that.
No peach.
I don't need that peachy sucker.
Oh.
Lemuelu, baby.
I suppose Spy, while he is certainly still a very solid buy, if you're going to go here, you probably go towards Edwards or Billy Smith this week, don't you?
I think so, but I've got to be honest with you. Part of me feels with Penrith looking pretty good again on that left edge, I don't mind getting him and rolling him through.
He's so playable.
His buy coverage isn't great in that he misses 13-19, so that's probably my major knock on him. But, I mean, you're pretty happy playing him in your side anyway, can't you? So I don't think he's overpriced by any means.
What are we doing with Zach Hosking? Because...
Yeah, can I jump in here? Why? Not at you. You knew thought that was coming at you. Everyone's selling him. Why?
Hosking?
Yeah, he got 28 in 30 minutes last week. Looked phenomenal. And because they happened to lead 80-0 at half time, like, we don't need you.
Yeah.
Surely you play him this week. I think Clem might be looking to sell him.
So prior to the weekend where he played 31 minutes, he had a low score of 49. That was the game against the Bunnies where I'm pretty sure he went off with an ankle injury. Might have been, or did he go off something there? Anyway, in that week, he scored 49 in 59 minutes. So that was his lowest score all season. He hasn't really had attacking stats since those first 2 tries in his first 2 games of the season. I think the concern, Spy, is the same concern we had around Sorensen, and it's minutes. So Martin on the bench there, coming back from a concussion, Sorensen killing it. But, like, we know that Cleary wants to use Sorensen ideally as a middle. Coming off the bench, the Maddo type. The role he's played in a premiership winning team for 2 years in a row.
Martin left edge, Hosking right edge.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason I'm fired up there, it's like, sell him next week. You can sell him next week. If they come out this week and you go, you know what, he's playing 45, 50, you can get rid of him. But if he comes out and plays 80 and pumps out 80, I'd go, oh, this guy's awesome. So I just think it's a bit of a panic trade for me. Unless it's viable for a reason, sorry.
The 5 weeks prior, he was averaging around that 60 mark pretty effortlessly in terms of his base the 5 weeks prior, 60, 51, 55, 57.
And his best game
and he's got attack in him.
Yeah, his best game of the year by far was last week before he got hurt. He was flying. So I just think, cool your Jets, Clem.
You're looking to sell him, aren't you?
Well,
and why? That's all I know, why.
Don't listen to us. You tell us what you think.
I totally empathise with
The Spy
everybody trading him out.
The Spy hasn't intimidated a girl in his life. He's not going to start now. So.
Please. What a whack.
I think it depends on your team. And if you saw my team right now, I have like literally such an ugly second row. It's so bad.
Talk us through it. Read it out.
Well,
the people want to know.
I've got David Fafita, obviously, and I've got Preston and Hoskins, but I'm more thinking like I need to get someone else for round 13. That's my problem, is that I haven't really planned enough and I don't have enough players there. So my thinking is that Hoskins' break-even is 74. I don't want to hold him, and if he doesn't get that, I'm going to drop more cash and then I'm not going to be able to afford to bring someone in.
Who's on your bench?
I have Hopgood, which is great. I have Ford, which is fantastic, but then I've got Dury sitting there.
Jeez, you've talked down your back row.
I love
good.
I
just around 30.
I love I've got David Fafita, obviously. There's about 20% out there who still don't own David Fafita.
Clem with a subtle whack.
No, I understand it. I understand the Hosking sell.
So why not next week? That's my question. You get 3 trades next week, 4 if you need it.
Well,
His worst case, I reckon he loses 30k. Maybe he makes 30k.
I don't know. I have to have a think about it, but I definitely don't want to hold him.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why this week, Spy.
Yep.
Hylam Lukey.
I love Lukey.
Someone else needs to go for him.
If you're going to Lukey now for low break even and that's your trade, go for it. Yep. You've answered, you've responded in turn, and I accept it.
Have I got your permission?
Yeah, I'll allow it.
Sweet.
Third most traded out player this week, Tommy Trebojevic, 570k. I think you wait a week just because he might drop a bit more cash. I know he's not looking great, but he also scored 80 the week prior in a losing team to who they had belted by the week before. someone?
Brisbane up in Brizzy.
Brisbane,
He put
and he
80
got
on
80.
him. Also, for what it's worth, he's got the Knights next week. I know he doesn't have Cherry and stuff, but as through that game on the weekend, he didn't look great. But then that second half, something clicked mentally. It was like, I just want to be better. And he had a heap of runs.
Yeah.
Although he wasn't the Tommy of old, if he was a normal footballer, he'd go, hey, he looks okay, this bloke. So round 13, if he doesn't make Origin just due to health concerns, he could go really. He could easily score a ton, even if it's a low ton.
In weirdly, I don't would say fullback's a troublesome position, but it's certainly not the locks that we're all looking at. So I just think if you've held this long, you give one more week.
There'd be some thought to buying him next week if he plays.
Yeah, well, give him like 550k if he looks good this week, and then anyway.
Yeah, I just think if you own him for now, I'd hold him.
If he gets picked for Origin, sell him next week.
I just think there's a little bit of progress in that second half on the weekend. So let's see.
Fourth most traded out. The Wahas are on the buy. Clem, lock and load. People selling Chance at 529k. Plays round 13.
Well, it's breaking my heart. Why is people selling God Chance? Like, he is fantastic. Like, I'm literally bringing him in next week. So I don't understand the sell at all. Why are people trading out people that are playing for round 13? That's what I don't understand. Like, unless you've got, like, unlimited trades and a million players playing, I truly don't get it. Like, I would not be trading out God Chance.
Well said. I agree.
I'd be holding fire on Chance as well.
Can I ask what you're wearing today, by the way?
Oh, yeah.
Not in a creepy way.
Oh, yeah.
What is that?
So I won this little tracksuit in 2021 when I came sixth.
Oh, is that it must be a top 10 thing.
It's like a top 11 thing, you know.
I should have worn mine. My name Spike would have.
Do you have one?
I do have one, yeah.
Why don't you wear yours?
I didn't even cross my mind.
We could have sat here and watched Spy's face.
What tracksuit do you get for winning it? I'll wear it next time you come down.
I think you just get the same. Mine has Friday beers on the back, which is quite fun. Like if you're going for some Friday beers.
They're great.
Oh, it's good. It's good. Nice.
So good.
James Tedesco, 6th most traded out. Look, I'm in this boat as well. 557k.
Break even, do we know?
Break even, we'll find.
Have a look, but talk to me.
He gets the Dragons this week. Honestly, I have said it wasn't a captain hindsight hero. Break even 81. It wasn't a hindsight hero thing. I said as soon as Joe Manu went to 5'8", this isn't going to help him. And I was hoping it was going to end very quickly, that experiment. It did end, but it was forced with an injury to Joe Manu, who I also own. So it was a bit bittersweet. But just hold him this week for the Dragons clash. And
100%.
You can sell him next week for round 13 if need.
Hutchison will just give him some footy. He'll be the talisman this week.
He will be a different man with Drew Hutchison. I can't wait to see the Roosters this week because just a few less attacking weapons, I think sounds funny, could do wonders for them.
I think I read something and someone can verify it, but in the last couple of years, the best number 7 for the Roosters in terms of win success is Hutchison, then Walker, then Cleary. And obviously that has a lot to do with who plays 5'8" and all the rest, but Hutchison will just get in there and just give service, kick well, do a job, and free up his men. So, Teddy this week could be on for one.
I think it'll do wonders for the entire team, to be honest there. Number 7, Jackson Ford. Number 7, the most sold, 510k. It's the exact same argument as Chance, isn't it?
He looks awesome. Don't sell him.
He's so
Don't get
good.
it whatsoever.
He's scary to watch. I haven't owned him.
And
Scary
number
to watch.
9, Isaiah Katoa, 383k.
Playing next week.
13 next week.
Could pump out 60 for you. Unless it's for someone you're desperate for. No way.
Now, Clem, something I think I've given up for 1 week in the history of SC Playbook, hosting duties of this podcast. You've got the floor for a couple of minutes. You've got a little game for us.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. So we are going to play Supercoach, Marry, Shoot, Shag. Okay? It's the funnest game ever. Okay, so we're going to start with Spy. Now, Spy obviously has 100 boys.
Yeah,
Like,
so
it's
the
really
idea for
hard
this
for them to
game
choose.
came from you just saying, Spy has so many boys, we need to work out who are his real boys.
Yep. He needs like an intervention, like a counselling session. You say, I love everybody in the Supercoach. He has so many boys.
Yeah.
We need to like cut them down
Narrow
for
it.
him.
I'm a sucker for a man crush in the footy world.
You are. So we're going to throw to you first. So choose your Marry, Shoot, Shag.
All right. Can you throw the first one at me? What order do you want it in?
You need
Marry.
who are the players?
Marry. So
Oh, no,
he can
I
choose
get
the
to
players.
choose.
He can choose
Oh,
the
right.
players
Yeah.
because
I can choose
we need
whoever I like.
Yeah. We need to let him choose. Go, Marry.
Marry Nicho Hynes. It has to be, doesn't it? Like, how do you not marry Nicho? He's just lovely. And from a super, I don't know if this is like real world or super coach, but he covers both. So how do you not marry him? Lock him in, tick.
Shoot.
This comes from a previous podcast we've done before and chat about, but I'd also shoot Nicho. Hear me out. This was the week after he scored 190 and I didn't bring him in. And my logic was I wanted to shoot him through, I don't know, maybe the hip or something, not too bad, that doesn't hurt him for too long. Cut him from that game early, save my bacon and anyone who didn't get him, then rehab him and marry him later.
At a discount.
Yeah.
Now, this is the hardest one for him. How is he going to cut down all his boys to one shag?
One night stand.
One night stand.
Luckily, well, there's two things. Reece Walsh is a bit young, so it can't be him. It's got to be SJ. If I can't marry SJ, I'm going to need a night with him, so lock him in.
Thank you, God.
But pre-broken ankle SJ when he was in his absolute prime.
You wouldn't have mature SJ of this year.
I'd still have him, but yeah. All right. How about yourself?
Myself.
Shoot, shag, marry, any order you want. Hit us.
All right, perfect. Well, I'm obviously marrying Nicho Hynes. Like, clearly. Like, he's just so reliable.
He's going to be busy, Nicho.
Yeah.
Is this just I was doing joint wedding?
He's got
got-
have a
he's-
joint
for
wedding.
money
It's gonna be
wise.
cheaper.
He's got two
Yeah.
weddings to prepare for with a bullet
Wait,
through
we
his
might need
leg.
to go to Pat and George. We might need them to like
Yeah, we'll
sponsor
call 'em
our
up for
wedding
this
us.
wedding.
Yeah, they'll sort us out.
So I'm definitely marrying Nicho Hynes. Just reliable, just that nice guy you can take home to your mum. You know, he wets his own hair when like it's not raining.
You can do it when it is, yeah.
He's just the reliable guy.
He'd
that's
change your
always
light
gonna
bulbs
come
if you
from-
need it.
That's
He's
exactly
Nicho.
right. Yep,
Yep.
so reliable. I am gonna shoot Cheese. Like definitely shoot. Cheese is my like super coach. Like he is the one that always hurts me. So
Yep.
he's the one that doesn't matter. I can own him. I can not own him. Doesn't matter. Whatever I do, he's
Doesn't
gonna hurt me.
happen.
You know, he's gonna score if I don't own him.
He just hurts you,
hurt
regardless of the
Yep.
situation.
So
Yep.
definitely
Yep.
shooting him. Now my shag. So we did actually play this on another podcast,
Yep.
and so my shag is still the same. My shag is David Fafita. Now,
Firstly, tell me why you wouldn't back in the day last year. Why last year he wouldn't have
Yes.
been? Why not?
so if I was going to shag David Fafita, I would really need to have the 2021 David Fafita and not the 2022 version that just stands to the side, waving his arms around and jumping involved in the action. I mean, how unfun would that be? Like with your shag, you want it to be like real involved. Now, this year we have 2023 David Fafita. So we have the new improved version. He scores all the time. Last week he scored twice. He'd give you the best night of your life. So I am shagging David Fafita.
There you go. Very, very good.
Good list.
Yeah, good list. Fair play to you.
Jesus. I'll run with, what do we got? We're marrying Cam Murray, obviously.
Yep, easy
Fairly.
done.
Beautiful,
Yep.
waking up to that every day. How good.
And a hard pass from my
You
list.
can bring
so,
him home
yeah.
to your mum.
Yeah,
like,
bring home
so
to
good.
mum. Exactly
Yeah,
right.
he's lovely.
Shoot. I'd be shooting Kalen Ponga because I love the bloke so much, but at the end of the day, he's always going to be a Queenslander and he's probably going to kill us again in 2023. So,
Yep.
Cool.
yeah, so
Yep.
to
A
rule
bit
it-
like cheese for Clem. You just hurt you when you
Yeah.
when you least need it.
Yeah.
And if Shag would be Corey Horsburgh, big red, because you just know he'd be a demon in the sack.
Oh, redhead.
Yeah, good.
Didn't even have to think about that one. Guys, what a good segue into the better SC Playbook multi of the week for round 12. Nicho Hynes, speaking of the man himself, 75 plus official fantasy points, NRL fantasy points that is, against the 90s this week into Mulitalo and Katoa, the two wingers to score tries at $5.50. Very happy with those odds about that one. So to follow along, you can find a link to better in any of our articles at scplaybook.com.au or in our YouTube description. By going through those channels, it'll let Better know that we sent you. So that'd be much appreciated if you are linking up. Important to remember that you win some, but you lose more. For free and confidential support, call 1-800-858-858 or visit gamblinghelponline.org.au. It's funny, like, you hear on the ads over all the years that you have the messages that you have to read out, like, brought to you by the Australian government, yeah. And you're like, how the hell do they read those messages so quickly? Every time I read that important to remember one, I'm just quicker and quicker. I could rattle it off at lightning speed. I get it now.
I honestly thought you had memorised it. Like
Yeah.
whenever I watched the potty, I always thought that you just
Yeah.
like had a really good memory or something.
No, just habit. Practice, I should say. Guys, round 12, trades and skippers. Spy, I'll start with you, mate. What are you looking at?
Yeah, so just having a look at a Billy Smith coming in for, I dead set forget, one of my centres who I don't want. Come back to me.
Alamotti?
Nah,
Taruva?
I'm on the wrong screen. Not Taruva.
All right, Clem,
Keeping Taruva for
Clem,
what
I'll
it's worth.
go
Go
with
to
you.
Clem.
What are you looking at?
Sure. So I'm probably trading out Hoskins, probably for Lukey as this week, and then I want to get in Billy Smith. I just need to try and work out who to do for him because I have like a bit of a problem in my CT dub, and that I have Te Whare and I have Isaac Thompson sitting there, so I just need to try and work out who to trade for him. But I'll have a play around tonight and see what I come to. For my skipper, I'm definitely skippering Nicho Hynes 100% versus Newcastle. For VC,
Say that like you haven't done it the last 35 NRL rounds.
Honestly, of course, like every week. It's going to hurt me so much if I trade him out, like over Origin. And then VC, I'm not really too fussed over VC. I might just throw it on someone like AJ for fun and just hope for the best. Like, I am just so sure on Nicho this week.
I know it's going to happen.
No, like, honestly.
I like it.
The gel.
I figured out why I didn't know. It's because I don't know yet. I'm definitely bringing Billy Smith in, but I've got Isaac Thompson still sitting there. Like, he could play next
Causing me
week.
some headaches, the old IT.
He's just sitting there. I'm like, I've held him this
incredible
long.
try in his World Cup on the weekend.
I saw it. It was amazing. And the facts are he could play next week, but I don't really want to get rid of Taruva. I feel like he's just coming into a little bit of form. Could be handy over that period, especially those tricky rounds. So at this stage, probably Isaac Thompson to Billy Smith, unless I can find another way. And then I do think I'll go Pele up to Edwards. I just think I'd rather have Edwards sitting there playing, making cash, possibly being a cracker for the buyers than Pele doing nothing. Just makes sense to me. So I think that'll be the two trades this week. VC, Latrell Mitchell, Indigenous round. Ideal. Let's see how he goes.
Did you end up skipping him last week?
I didn't. It would have been a nervous watch.
Oh, that late try for Latrell skippers.
Didn't get going till late. Tigers did a good job.
That was such a dagger. Like, after he went 55 the week before, he was on track for about the same, and then the late try. To be fair, it was a boss, but it was like...
Yeah, he got about like 50 in the last 10 minutes, thankfully.
That's what Trell can do, though.
Yeah, we'll see what Trell can do. He'll be fired up, no doubt. And Para's pretty flaky, so he could be awesome. But it's hard to go past Nicho against the Knights. I mean, Sunday Arvo, I think you have to. Scary not to. Yourself, mate?
Yep. So trades at this stage, looking at now the dual position of the peach has come in very handy this week. So I can flip a few things around, but I want Lukey and I want Billy Smith. Now I need to work out who goes for them. I don't want to go early on because the Tigers match up this week, but Val has to go before next week because Cowboys Origin contingent, so him and Ruben Cotter. Horrible. Like, they play something like 3 of 8 games, I think it is.
Tough one.
It's really bad. So I think Val has to go. So I'm like, I want him for the Tigers game, but we came in last week saying that players don't turn up against the Tigers. Well,
I don't mind the
Bunny's
play.
had the dream matchup. Guess who didn't turn up?
I was watching the Tigers last week. They just control the ruck so well.
Yeah.
There's no quick play of the balls, which is why Latrell struggled to get going into the game. But I don't hate the Val sell if that's your way to do it.
Like we spoke about how good a matchup that was going to be for the Bunnies and these players. Latrell got to 90 off that late try.
AJ
Cody
40.
was like 60. AJ 40 was like...
They just control that middle and it gives them a chance out
So
wide.
Val is someone who I'm trading next week. It was great for me last week, but might just have to go. There's Bizzer as well, Brian Toto, who probably goes before Origin, but not necessarily. And then there's Taruva, who's the one who offers me around 16 coverage, but do I just hold? So, and he's got a low break even. So trying to work out who goes there. And then, again, not that I want to do it, but it could be Hosking as well to Lukey just because I might have to. But I could, because of the duels, I think I can maybe go 2 of the other guys, the CT dubs out and keep Hosking. So got to work it out.
Bit to play out.
Bit to play out. Spy will drop our updated trades in the SC Playbook WhatsApp group later in the week once confirmed.
Definitely.
I'll also have them on the listener Q&A podcast that I do on a Thursday afternoon. So that's going through all the subscriber questions, free for everyone to listen to, and then I drop my updated trades and skippers and all that at the end of that podcast. Skippers, VC James Tedesco. Just give us a sweet 180, mate, please. Please. Captain Nicho Hynes. Let's wrap it up with a few questions. Firstly, from the NRL Supercoach Sponge, one of the great human beings. My first question is directly aimed at Clem. Did you think Timmy looks more like Zach Hosking or Phoenix Croston after downing copious beers at Magic Round? Hit me.
Well, I saw this question come through last night, and I am still in shock that it wasn't Zach Hoskins with us. Literally this whole time I thought it was him. I got an autograph. I'm not sure who that was. That must have been you giving it to me. I'm just shocked that it was you, and you were there the whole night, and it wasn't Zach.
So you selling Hosking is like you had to spend a whole night with me on the beers, and you was like, mate, you're out of my team.
I'm just like,
think it was Zach Hosking being a knob.
I did think Tim looked a bit awkward and confused when he was signing Zach on your forehead at 8 p.m. at night.
run with it while it works. Question from Jonty Moore, Spy. This is the one I alluded to earlier. Is it worth boosting next week to get to 13? So we talk about not ripping your side apart. This is me. So if I go Billy Smith this week, it will leave me maybe 9 players for round 13. So I'd have to boost to get to the 13. I know it's a general question.
I mean, you know my thoughts on boosting, but 100%, you get a free player for a boost. I mean, I wouldn't do it for someone who's going to get you 25 or something.
Yeah, but
if you're bringing in someone who's capable of 90 plus, 100, absolutely.
Yeah. I've got 2 boosts left as well. Because I've got 2 boosts left as well.
Yeah,
so I always want to hold one for round 20.
Yep.
And that will be staying there until that time. But
if it gets you a decent player instead of a 0, for sure.
Yep. So there you go, Jonty, question answered. Question from Paul the Pool Man Cannon from the Supercoach Hub, another great of the Supercoach community. What would Clem like for a first shot on our potty next week? Soy sauce or some other concoction? Great to see Clem making your first appearance in 2023. Can't wait.
Okay, I need to think about this one actually. Definitely not a fireball. I think we might have had a couple of those at Magic Round maybe, but definitely not one of those. I think that it will maybe be soy sauce, which sounds pretty disgusting.
Oh.
Actually, there's some sort of like Swedish fish delicacy that I think it was Sponge actually who put that we need to have that. I can't think what it's called.
Vinegar or something.
But
it's been on the table.
Oh, it's going to be gross anyway. I mean, that's another bet. That's a bet that I lost. That's why I'm on that, doing shots.
Fireball is so good. It's the second best.
Could you imagine me having a few fireballs though? Trying to do a potty?
Yeah, I know.
Be worth a listen.
Second best beverage, alcoholic beverage behind, of course, Bloke in a Bar Tins.
Bloke in a Bar.
So case for the weekend.
Don't hate a fireball, but for me, cinnamon just belongs on donuts.
Question from Chris Mower. Is Luai or Ponga a trade-in for Hosking via Jules? Being Schuster, he says. Potential stepping stone to Munster, playing head-to-head. Already has Cody Walker at 5'8". So I suppose firstly, Spy, what's your thoughts on that trade? And Luai, Ponga, 2 blokes that went big last weekend, Luai in particular. As a head-to-head in terms of riding off round 13, what are your thoughts on those 2?
Initial reaction, no way. But then I remembered, obviously, Luai coming off 155. Could have some cash to make. I think it's pretty cheap. So if it's a stepping stone type thing in head-to-head, don't mind it. Ponga, no. I just think it's too risky at the moment still.
And he misses 13 and 14.
Yeah, so not for him. But if you want to do Luai, but I think I'd still just hold Hosking and find cash elsewhere with the other guys we've spoken about.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I think there are better options around. It's a bit like Ponga, concussion risk, injury risk, Origin, misses 13, 14.
Yeah.
Such good cash grabs this weekend. I think it's better than those guys. Clem, question from Mitchell James. Thoughts on Drinkwater and Gutho as a combo for the bye period? I mean, we've spoken a fair bit about Clint Gutherson, and I think his break-even's relatively high this week, so you probably wouldn't get him just yet. Scotty Drinkwater, Cowboys finding a bit of form. We know what he's capable of. I think he averaged 70 last year. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think it's viable. I don't think that they don't play any of the same. Don't think they miss any of the same rounds, do they? So I totally think it's viable, and I think it's like a fun possible potty move that could really pay off for you. And like I feel like this year's like a year where risks have kind of paid off for people. So why not just give it a go?
Yeah,
like,
looks fun to me.
Yeah, it looks so fun.
Spied, it cut me deep to add this question, but I thought it was a good one. From Darren Rachel, don't know. Is Alex Johnston a trap? So averaging 55 this season prior to the last weekend's game, 40 points against the Tigers. Could he be a trap? We saw it again on the weekend. The right edge was so dominant. Tane Milne had a field day on the right wing. Could he be a trap, or are you happy with it?
At that price, no. I think he could underwhelm potentially.
Yeah.
But I just think he's also going to have big scores in him. Bunnies will get better and better.
The draw's great.
Now that I've got him, just sit him there. If you want to sit him some games as it goes on, sure. But there's tons coming. Yeah. They're too good. Tigers, as I said, they slowed the ruck last week so much. They just couldn't do the damage on that left edge. It took some Campbell Graham magic on the right to actually get through them. Most games aren't going to be like that.
Clem, question from Matty Broom, SC Playbook, Big Bash contributor, good man. Sell Alamotti or Taruva to Billy Smith. Alamotti and Taruva both came good after some disappointing weeks last weekend. Alamotti's a fair bit cheaper, so there's more value in the Taruva trade. Neither play round 13. If you had to sell one of those two to Billy, who would it be?
I would sell Alamotti. Yeah. I sold Alamotti like a few weeks ago, and I think he was a trade then. So definitely him. Yeah.
For sure. Spy, Byron Hoy. Do I pick Madison or wait for Origin team lists?
Yeah, I'd wait. There's no need to grab him this week. Yeah, just wait a week.
Shouldn't play, but could.
Never know. Injuries could happen. Anything could happen. And again, don't forget he doesn't play around 14. If just for your side, have a look at that. But I think just wait a week unless you sort of have to go now, in which case should be all right.
And Spy, to finish up, 2 questions I've combined together from 2 of the SC Playbook, Faithful and JC Charles. What to do with Sonny Luke? Brackets, biggest mistake. Nicarima, an option, question mark. Other hooker is Reed. Into Anton Posser. Thoughts on Cody Nicarima as a cheaper buy-friendly option to get rid of Sonny Luke? Feels like the Dolphins have points in them and he's creating a lot of their tries. What do you reckon?
I don't hate it. Probably prefer if you're going to sell Sonny to try go up to one of the guys we spoke about before, Reese or one of those fellas when you downgrade one of your Origin guys. I also think if Sonny's minutes can increase as maybe he's carrying something and he comes good, he could prove okay. But yeah, look, I think I haven't looked hard into Nicarima, to be honest. I looked last week and I was a bit on the fence, which normally tells me, as you said last weekend or last week in the potty, don't force a trade. Much like an offload, don't force it. If it comes to you, do it. But nah, I don't know. I'm a bit meh on that one.
Yeah, he's 375k with a negative 28 break even. Back to that scores of 75 and 68. But in the 3 games prior to that, scores of 38, 29 and 17. They were all at number 6. So, yeah, dual 5'8 hooker. You understand it, but it could just be one of those bangs out 20 and 30. And
it could be lovely, honestly. I'm just a bit middling on it.
Yeah, not for me. Guys, next week on the podcast, we will have a really good... We've already discussed it in bits and pieces, but well, I think it was about a month ago, actually, Spy. We chatted about the Origin players we were looking to hold and sell over the period. Now that we're almost there, next week will be the next podcast, round 13, the big one. We'll chat about the Origin players, who are we cutting, who are we holding through that period.
Run through them all.
Guys, that's it for the SC Playbook podcast for NRL Supercoach Round 12. Clem, congratulations on a ripping studio debut, and we don't want to get our hopes up, but there might be a bit more of you around the studio in the back end of the season.
There might be a move to Sydney on the cards. That will be exciting. So definitely, thank you so much for having me. It was so much fun.
And Spy, thank you, mate.
Cheers, guys. Clem, awesome to have you. Done well. I know you were nervous, but look, just enjoy your little lead on me for now, my friend.
I'd be nervous sitting that close to Spy as well, so don't worry. Thanks, guys, for tuning in, and good luck in NRL Supercoach Round 12.